Hello, guys. Please raise your hand if you are turn it in. So let's just give a sound of applause for the other panels. Good. So let's just see if we can have more people here because this is a vertical that it's very important for us to talk about. Today, gamers they are very transversal. Uh, they can penetrate in an economic vertical. For instance, fintech. Fintech, you are able to connect the commerce along with health. And if you do have a digital transaction, and gaming is becoming that, it is not only about entertainment, but also commerce, education. So games, it is something that we can use in different occasions, businesses, and on our daily routine. We perceive that the gaming world in a generation, for instance, I am talking here about digital platform. I've worked in some of them. The media reunites different digital platforms, offerings, demands, and games. It is a bubble inside a bubble. So it is a very recent generation. If there are the young people investing, we have gamers. And we have here in Brazil a very big potential in this sector because whether you like it or not, we are very creative. And I believe that you've seen a meme of a person trying to do something to. Uh, well, we are very creative. We also merge different ethnicities and even consider the city of São Paulo. So that's why we have these new businesses models. By saying that, I'd like you to please introduce yourself by mentioning the company you represent, the SP Negócios business role that is that is increasing worldwide, the industry of games, the profitability of it, the revenue. I would like to know more. So I would like to get to know who are the people who do that. But all of you who are hearing us here, um, we would like to get to know from you. Good morning. My name is Gustavo Steinberg. I am the founder of Big Festival, the biggest gaming festival in Latin America. We started 10 years ago when uh, when everything was very different considering the gaming production industry here in Brazil. When you had our first edition 2012, we had only 20, 20 studios here in Brazil, and this year we had a poll, and then we have more than 1,000 studios, gaming studios in Brazil. And during 10 years, we had such a revolution of the production of games because we were in a consumption territory and we are now turning into one of the biggest hubs. We want to be a production hub, and and we have been working. We have been working uh, very very much. So we expanded our business to the Latin America, and I will be talking about the meaning of all of that. Hello, good morning. My name is Michel Cerqueira, São Paulo Negócios, co-organizer of this event, co-sponsor of this event, with pleasure. So we saw that and we have been working with the gaming logistics. How can we support the industry? How can we materialize these numbers and support the local ecosystem to make the city of São Paulo to turn it into a potency and turn it into a hub. So we have been acting and we've been participating in events, supporting specific events, making partnerships and international partnerships. Last week we also participated in the Web Summit, and we were also able to agree a Portuguese with a Portuguese to have an agreement with a Portuguese company and São Paulo, Lisboa games, innovation, and specifically to work with games because we've got a lot to gain. There is a small portion that we need to be bigger. So our role here is to conduct this business and support everybody that is on this business. Hello, my name is Karina. I am a head of growth Afterverse. Afterverse, it is a studio that is completing 2 years. We are part of the Grupo Mobile, and our main game is PKXD, and it got very popular during pandemic. It is a metaverse for children, and we are here growing. It is our first studio of mobile, and we've been penetrating in the Brazilian industry. I've been on the industry for 5 years, and I've worked for 5 games, mobile gaming, and I'm here to share with you my experience about metaverse, about child metaverse. Hello, my name is Cybelle Fernandes. I work at Wildlife. Wildlife is a gaming company founded by three brothers. It is a mobile gaming. It is focused on entertainment, and it is a global company. So it started in Brazil because the brothers are from here, but we have 8 entities around the world, and the games are in 100, 180, 190 countries. I don't know if the profile of ad gamers, but the famous are Tennis Clad, Zuba, Sniper. These are some games that we also produce. Thank you for the invitation. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jesus. My nickname is Thiago. I am a tech director at Magalu Games. So I've always followed big, but I have always been very enthusiastic. So as my colleagues here mentioned, we've got different opportunities, creativity, and having international opportunities. We want to digitalize the Brazilian market and also Brazil, right? So why not using games in order to do it? So we have fintechs, we have entertainment. So we were thinking on how can we foster the industry along with the developers because uh, we have also matches and we want to grow this industry, the seller and so on. We want to do the same with this group of people. I am just delighted with your presentation. We have, for instance, retail, forest industry of games. We have two different national representatives, Unicorn, within the group, Bovly, and all the attempts, Play Kids, in order to have one. And the D Games is international and universe language. And it is very interesting because other business verticals here in Brazil, we get a little bit afraid of accessing international markets. Europe, United States, and Brazilians are doing that. São Paulo citizens, they have this access. But before approaching and addressing those characteristics of the gaming industry, it is important to explain what is behind. Because most part of people who are here, hearing us, seeing us, and they will follow us on social media, they might not have the notion what is behind this chain. Maybe, for instance, a programmer and uh, and I would like to start with you, Gustavo. If you can explain this whole production chain for games, I would like to know who is the producer, what is the studio responsible for, how is the distribution chain, what are things. Well, for instance, you have the development studio, and it also depends the studio if it's a console focused, mobile. So there are different platforms. So there's a studio and the publishing, two entities. The published it is the distributor, and you have the largest publishing that own the hardware, the industry of consoles, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo. So they sell, and if you compare with the movie industry, if you want to film their movie, you need to use their device to develop for them. So it is ultra verticalized, but it's being more affordable because before time, it was difficult for you to have the hardware in order to develop the game. But today it is more affordable. So considering the duo, the studio, the publish, today you have self publication, the web life, big success, right? PKXD. And also you can also develop your own ecosystem for you to feed your games. So you create a community. So and then you have your titles, and you need to have a strategy and a technology of data analysis, users profile in order to know all the products that will work well. And there are different techniques, different profiles. For instance, a game of $20,000 or and a game of $1 billion. You can spend the amount you would like to, right? It is the amount that you want to. There are cheap games, hyper casual, for instance, $10,000, $20,000 to develop. But for you to sell it, you will need to spend $500,000 unless you have your own community, right? Because their biggest strategy, it is not only gaming development, but also having a community. There is also a graphic production in the gaming industry. You have the programmer and the caster. And I haven't even mentioned sports. It is a big universe, right? You need to distribute games with the attributes that exist, and I also like uh, the, the, the marketing. It's not marketing, it's about users acquisition, right? Because you need to buy users. You need to buy users in order to for them to play your game, and the cost need to be lower. But just for you to have an overview of the big fest, we have a market, we have a B2B for 10 years, the largest publishers, the investors, the game investors, we get them to talk, to have a discussion with the national and international and national studios. We also have by Konami, Plugin Digital, French organization that turned it into giant. So we have different ones. Some are focused on buying games and launching on their media. That is what we foresee on the big, along with the trend that is contemporary on the game industry. For instance, technology. We have the engines.
So you have Unity, Unreal, Cocos, which are softwares for developing games, and these softwares have an impact on reality, which is impressive. So the Unreal technology, for instance, is being used for movies. So everything about movies is gonna be using Unreal technology. Why is that? Because in order to develop a game, you gotta develop your narrative, and at the same time see that as render in real time, which is different from the cinema and movies, because you create the scene and then you leave up to render for an entire month. So you need an immediate feedback for games, and this type of technology was applied to Mandalorian, the first series that was uh, developed using Unreal technology. So this is just one of the features in the games industry that you can expand to other industries. And you have other types of games, serious games. There are games that have social impacts. So you have this entire other thing, another sector of development and strategy. So you have to involve educational bodies and authorities, and you also have the simulation and training parts. So all of that is part of the games sector, and we present that with lectures, with world-renowned lecturers and speakers. So was just to give an overview of the gaming sector. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna comment on many things that you mentioned, and you mentioned Cybelle. Actually, I want to talk to her as well. So the way I see looking from outside, because I'm not a part of the gaming industry, we're more connected with e-commerce, generally speaking. So the way I see it, historically, we faced an issue as Brazilian entrepreneurs of turning that game into a business. So for a long time, people understood games as this movie's asset. So you have this movie or this game, do you want to buy it? So you have another agent to carry out the distribution, selling B2B or B2C to the final user. And the potential of games as business is much greater than that. So you touched on some of those items. So nowadays we sell clothes for characters in games. You sell other assets in games. So I want to understand it better, Cibele. How you from wildlife, a Brazilian unicorn, how you are creating this your own ecosystem to have a better profitability rate for this access. So we know that you have many success cases, and you were able to actually develop your business, not only produce it and sell it to someone else. So I want you to tell us a little bit about this business models and how you apply that in wildlife. All right, I think it's very much in line with what Gustavo mentioned. So we got here in a crucial moment. They could publish their own games. So in that sense, I think the narrative was changed a lot. There was a plot twist. So we have more control. We know the data information better. We have a better developed UA sector, which is connected to communities. It retrofits out of these exchanges with communities, and then it gets back to developers. So I think it was fundamental. This understanding that that which I developed, I can also distribute. So another feature, because companies have different business models, but people debate a lot about the moment in which you develop the game and the moment in which the game is live. And then you need to preserve it. So it's about preserving it in the long term, people being able to play the game and to convert users. So some companies adopt these business models and they separate into sectors. So a small development team, and when it's up to a live, you have a different team to be in charge of that, to actually see how the game is being developed in the communities. And in other companies, you have a single area. So the same area that develops the game monitors the live part of the game. So we adopted the first model, which is a model in which you have small teams that develop the game. And once this game was launched and went to a global launch, then you'll have a larger team in charge for the workings of the game, how you can convert more users, or to become more alluring or attractive to this user in question. And based on that, we can implement changes, amendments, adaptations in this game. So these are the one of the most important tools in these business models. And I see companies moving one way or another way, but this is the model that wildlife has adopted so far. All right, Karina, now I would like to ask you, you have an extra ingredient, right? That no one else has. So you're a part of a group that has other businesses, other verticals, that owns fintechs, marketplaces, and other initiatives. And what we noticed over the last 10 years is changing these different business models made other things to arise. So fintechs, marketplace, health with e-commerce. So this exchange fostered a lot of things, right? A lot of new things actually. So can you describe to us this trajectory you had, Play Kids, Afterverse? So how did you develop that in a group that has so many other verticals that could complement in a way games that you develop? All right. So Afterverse, for those who don't know, it was created with Finn Play Kids, a mobility company. So Play Kids has this product which is Take His App. So it's a platform that has content for children up to 7, 8. So you have videos, games, and within the core team of Kids App and the very app, you had games. So you have a development team to develop those games for children up to 7 years of age. And this group, they said, "Look, listen, we have this skill. This market is growing. The growing rate is preposterous. So we should try to come up with a bar game. So to flip it and have a new game. So we adapted some existing games. We launched them. It worked. And then our project director, he wanted to come up with this PKXD, which is a platform based on Roblox, trying to present that safely because Roblox had many safety issues to children. And then PKXD was born. And PKXD was the idea was to show gaming is a vertical, and Mobily should invest in that, and we should have our own company, and we develop these products so it could grow and be self-supporting as a business. So it's what's interesting about Mobile's ecosystem is that these companies are helping one another. They're exchanging knowledge. And iFood was the first brand that we actually inserted in the world to better understand the potential for partnerships. And as like metaverse work these days, one of the most important revenue sources is this brand partnership. So it worked. It was published on media, and the game grew. And last week we achieved 100 billion downloads. So obviously we're working with other titles and games, and this gaming ecosystem. We're still taking baby steps to understand how it works, how we can use this ecosystem. But it's something that we're thinking about the future. Nowadays we have PKXD, which is evolving and growing. Okay, so some time ago, with Play Kids, you purchased leiturinhas, right? So you had this thesis about connecting games to educational contents, right? Yes, I think that was way back when it was created. We had Play Kids app and letrinhas, but as Pikachu's Day is an open world in which the children can explore, come up with their own narratives and characters, their homes. So as those were not connecting, and this is a global product, which is the game changer here. When you're selling a product there, you're selling to the entire world. Obviously, our base, our headquarters is in Brazil. We cannot insert leiturinhas, a physical products, only in Brazil. So this idea we left aside. So we use a lot of the knowledge on PKEP and leiturinhas due to the audience that we work with, an audience that we know a lot, and we leverage our knowledge stemming from that. So, and the potential to scale it up is amazing, right? So, showing how huge is this potential. So, we are saying that all the digital commerce in Brazil has about 80 million deliveries a month. But we're talking about physical products, right? Now, when you compare that to the amount of downloads or sales of a game to the entire world, right, in the universal language, so that's unsurmountable, right? The economic benefits is huge. So Thiago has this thesis, and we're not sure it's going to be proven right yet, because many other theses in the sectors, some are crumbling. So the first one was expanding the market and that winners take all. We have other ones like those. But one of the sayings is the more time you have with the user if within the platform, and there is this entire concept of super app, the better, because the person will be there accessing other products. And that makes sense, right? Because the person who has 40 apps or 20 apps in their cell phones, and all of you who are paying attention to me, you know that you're gonna access only 5 or 6 out of those. And in China, we know the super apps, which are those apps which put together a lot of services in it. So, you want to make a transaction? That's here. You want to purchase? It's here. You want to pay bills? It's here. You want to play games? It's also here. So you have everything in it, and you as a group, you came up with a lot of solutions, right? So you with some purchases as well. So can you tell me how games fit in this new business model that was originally created as a retail, so a retail store in Dubai, for instance, and to this digital transition in an exceptional and a very expedient way, by the way, with the help of actors like Phil Vermeer, Cesar, Fred. So how do you see gaming fitting into your ecosystem? Okay, good question. Oh, wow, the key word here would be frequency more than retention, because at the end of the day, is how many times the person will get into log into the app and see the wide range of services in there. Like you mentioned, you have fintechs, you have mini worlds, you have mini concert worlds, food delivery. So you have so many things depending on where you're at. If you're using Magazine Luiza, for instance, you have this option for food delivery. Obviously, we're in São Paulo, so this is a thing here. But this is one of the features. So we noticed that gaming has two strengths. One is like what you mentioned, it's basically a media strategy, like other peers mentioned here. So you have a lot of people there engaged, and if you're able to interact with these people and make the person play or get a ticket, a coupon, so there is a lot of synergy in what is happening in this ecosystem to foster other categories. So we have categories for fashion. So you have app purchase, other for cosmetics. So we have this digital influencer, which is Lu, and we need to explore all of that through this gaming world. So very much in line with what we already have in terms of products, fashion, apparels. So it's more, this trend works better in terms of purchasing media per se than a potential to actually monetize that product. So to add value. And the second thing that I would like to mention is that you should also foster intellectual property. So you have a wide range of content. So you have this blog, for instance, a young nerd translated literally, and you have these partnerships, and you have these two different worlds. I know you're actually asking more about retail, but it's important to say we have other opportunities in the sector, notwithstanding the fact that we have a lot of people at home. But games for training and educational matters for collaborators or in-house games that work really well when you carry out training using this gamification, or maybe to work with inclusion, to train this employee through those games so that they can understand better how they can provide a good customer service for someone who is has any kind of impairments, for instance. So this is one of the projects that we're trying to develop in-house. So I know that all of you have a little share of that, but it's because of a huge range of products that we could develop. Yes, the potential for that is huge. So you presented the matter of games being used for educational purposes, and then you don't have a crystal ball. And so for the person who is more focused on hearing, you have an audiobook, and the ones that are focused on visual, they so games is so other people would say, you're thinking that I'm a child, and HR from companies they will say that a lot of time people HR is not named HR anymore. We call them people personnel team nowadays. So many times, as amazing as it seems, whenever you have a gamification process, even people who would play games who are gamers, they feel like they are being patronized. So some things are not going to be fitting for everyone, but it fits for a significant share. And we have some studies of people using games to deal with trauma for people who went to war or went through a difficult situation, so that people can sort out any mental issues or trauma. So it's funny that you mentioned this patronizing aspect, but there are other areas like mental health that are using games for those purposes. So we have two games, Sniper and War Machines. And users and gamers, the larger, they are veterans. The largest, most important players are veterans. So people that actually went to war and they experienced trauma, and the game helped them with processing this trauma. Actually, downstairs we have a remote simulator that is being used to simulate what could actually risk a driver. So how can you simulate a person driving or someone crossing on the street? So this world, even either in the metaverse or in a VR, this is a tool that we didn't have before to train.
So I would like to talk, Michelle, about, for instance, I haven't seen on TV, radio, or neither slogan, outdoor, anything about games, but I've seen about online betting, online betting. So this is very popular, and people like football. So there are many platforms having this market share. So I'd like you to please tell us about this specific segmentation. I know that you are a specialist and you have been contributing in order to make São Paulo City to be inserted in the gaming industry. So tell us about this trajectory. Uh, I'm a specialist because of you. Well, we started this map out. We started to understand the potentials, and then we were faced with other circumstances. So we had two very clear examples. One about sports betting that was regulated in the Temer era, but now we have the authorization for marketing, exposure, and sponsorship, but the headquarters are not in Brazil. So that's why we have been fighting for it because we want to have the regulation of it. It is not only about a game, but logics, and it is a movement that happens worldwide, and it generates a revenue. Unfortunately, there is the bad side of it that it's about addiction, but addiction it's about the game. So if we discuss about addiction, there are many things related. But by the time that I am able to have the regulation of it, I will be able to charge for it. And it's about the hosted platforms outside Brazil, and the betters are here. So the generation of employment is not here. So then we are not able to have a responsibilization of it. So we want to have the federal government. So we took an initiative. So we've checked the classifications for ISS and we understood how it can be applied for the industry to be established. And we started to have this project. So that there was a team in São Paulo after records because we didn't want the other municipalities to be in the core, but we participated in a big event last week in Miami in order to talk with these players. And we believe that if we do have conditions, not only about infrastructure, but human capital, bureaucracy, and the re-adequation of bureaucracy, right? Because we want to have it even for other states, but our goal is to reach 70% of the industry. It's about 3,000 working employments, and it is not a small amount. And in parallel, we had the first contact with the company at Big, Rei do Pitaco. Those of you who follow Rei do Pitaco, they are another category. They are fantasy games. And given these difficulties that we have been facing for the government to understand about this market, they didn't have an SS classification appropriate. So we understand that we have a big potential for this. And Mayor Aloysio mentioned, we also forwarded uh, a law, a bill, and there's also the events that involve games. So our idea is to work with big events. So what if we can have an event of PKXD, for instance, right? But we are taking into account the sports gaming that is advancing. So we understand, and it is the role of Papel Negócio. We want to understand the business requirements, the trends, and how can we help and support in order to have this without any gaps, any difficulties in the public power. No drawbacks. We want to anticipate these problems and be in the front line so that we can anticipate things and make the economy to be better. We've seen the gaming sector as a whole, and these two are very specific. They were not very mature, and we have been thinking about it. Publishes, and we don't want to lose studios. We have some difficulties. The internet internationalization logics. We don't want to sell the studios. We want to sell the products from the studios and the publishers, and we want to support this ecosystem. And we've got some initiatives that are in process of agreement. So I'm not going to mention not to generate wrong expectations. But by next year, we will be announcing you news. Everything that is new might generate doubts, right? I remember 2014 when the first app São Paulo was launched uh, to get drivers. We didn't know whether it would be good or not. So consumers they wanted it because any news will generate problems. But this circle of technology always go forward and it has to be understood. So it's about this previous understanding before reaching the stage, the spotlight, because we are computing worldwide and in a certain space to test a new business model. So it's about regulations and the sports. It already exists. It is a fact. So how is it going to be organized? Different from other times because São Paulo, we have more than 400 years and we were able to build a network with good education, services, assistance, and then you would need to fit into it. But for other businesses models, we will need to build together in order to make things evolve, because one of the biggest problems that we have are, for instance, financial transactions fraud. But then we put, for instance, facial facial recognition. So as and also the sports, there's the underage, for instance, online soccer match. Well, children, they can't participate, only those above 18. But today it is different. So what we are creating, the IXC. Well, last minutes, I'd like you to please connect with those who are hearing us, and if you could please share your contact details, okay? Final considerations. Well, we've talked a lot. We have, well, the big festival is going to be held next year, São Paulo Expo, June, and we are part of the Omelette Group, and they are co-organizing the Counter Strike 150,000 tickets sold. So if you'd like to have information, bigfestival dot bigfest.com.br. You know why we should bring it to São Paulo? Thank you for the opportunity and the partnership with other institutions as well. São Paulo Negócios is open doors to support those who might need our support. Okay? Thank you for the invitation and the participation. It's also good to talk with the industry experts. So for those of you who would like to follow the PKXD, you can follow online or LinkedIn. And please um, make your children to play it. And next year we will have newness. So get tuned in. I also like to thank you for the invitation. As you've mentioned in the beginning, the gaming is a bubble inside a bubble. So I participated in different events. So it is really good to exchange information. We have different events, and how can the gaming be inserted in different ecosystems. And we have also launched a new game, Magpie. So please download it. Well, I just would like to mention two things. As for sports, we have the net shoes, the minders, and it's really good to see that at every year it gets more mature. It gets more mature. As Gustavo said, uh, full stadium to see people playing. Another thing that I would like to mention is that we've launched some new games, and we are also sharing online information on the stories. And please follow us online. And another interesting thing is that the Web 3.0, Silvio was making a reflection of it. It is just like the dialing up, because there are many things that we still don't know. So thank you very much. Thank you, everybody who's here. For those of you who are online, please connect with them. They are big leaders in this segment. And for those of you who'd like to get to know more about the media, there is the website and Victor at Victor Magnelli. So this event has also the potential to generate connection and great businesses. Thank you very much.